Embassy of the Dead, Chapter 20, Freed.
Oh, Precious is finally waking up.
A girl's voice sounded from the darkness. It took a second for Jake to understand that his eyes were closed. He groaned and sat up. He could see the vaulted ceiling of the school assembly hall and the high arched windows. It was still night. He felt his head. The patch where it had been wet with blood was now dry and matted.
I can't believe you fainted, Precious, said the voice. I thought you died. You gave me a fright.
Jake spun round. Behind him, a girl sat on the edge of the stage, examining her nails. She was wearing exactly the kind of school uniform that Jake would have expected someone at the Bodleian School for Girls to wear. White, knee-high socks, a grey skirt, a maroon blazer, and a straw hat with a maroon ribbon. She had brown eyes and short, sandy-coloured hair.
Gave you a fright, said Jake. It was only ketchup, you know, a joke, she said, rolling her eyes. I get awfully bored here.
Jake blinked in confusion. The red on his fingers had congealed. He smelt his hand. It was vinegary, low-budget ketchup. Are you Cora? He asked, although he already knew she was. She sniffed.
Yes, I am. Who wants to know?
I'm Jake. I've come to help you pass on to the afterworld, to undo you. The girl hopped off the stage onto the floor. As she did so, she reached her hand into the air and a hockey stick materialised there. She stood over Jake where he lay, leaning on her hockey stick as if it were a cane and looking down at him dismissively.
You are going to undo me?
Yep, that's right, said Jake as confidently as he could. I'm an undoer.
I can't believe you can even see me.
Her eyes shone with excitement.
You're the first person ever, I think.
And this is a picture of Cora standing over Jake. Yep, he replied. I'm a very sensitive person. Cora laughed.
Oh, bless you. You are precious.
Not sensitive like that, said Jake defensively, standing up and brushing himself down. As in, I have, you know. He tried to remember what Stiffkey had said. Ghostly ways. He pulled a serious face, trying to look professional, which was quite hard considering the ketchup that was running down his face. I am an undoer, Jake continued, here to help you pass on to the afterworld. Huh. Cora took a moment to ponder this before giving Jake a sly smile and saying, What if I don't want to pass on? He picked a scab of dried ketchup from his hair and said, Well, all ghosts want to go to the afterworld, don't they, to stop the longings? That's what Stiffkey says. Cora raised an eyebrow.
Who's Stiffkey?
My ghost assistant, said Jake. Well, he was, in a way. Stiffkey says longings are sort of strange feelings you get, like a longing to be in the afterworld. He thought back to his conversation with Stiffkey, like a string tied to your heart or something, and someone's pulling it. Cora shrugged.
It sounds dreadful. I've only met one other ghost before, and he was dreadful too. Didn't even bother to talk to me properly, just listened to me knocking inside my trophy.
That must have been Ezekiel Frost, the auditor listed in your file, said Jake. He thought you were a poltergeist because they can only make noises. He didn't realise you were visible too.
But I'm not visible, said Cora sadly. You're the first person who's ever seen me. I can only pop out for short spells when someone opens the lid, and no one has ever noticed me, even when I shout at them, and when I've been free for longer stretches, like in 2003 when a cleaner left the lid up, and I had 3 days of freedom. The other girls couldn't see me, and I could only wander 30 or so metres from my trophy.
That sounds pretty bad, Jake sympathised.
It is, exclaimed Cora. When I'm in the trophy, it's like I'm hibernating. Once I popped out and a whole year had gone by, but it had only felt like moments. It's awfully disorientating.
She leaned back against the stage and twirled her hockey stick around, and as she did so it seemed to glimmer.
I entertain myself by scaring the other girls when I can. Sometimes I can move the trophy from the inside and make it knock against the wall of the cabinet. But even pranks wear thin when you never get the credit." She sighed, but then looked hopeful. "Although now you can see and hear me, and—" She smiled. "Did you say I have a file?"
"Yes," said Jake. "It says you're a low priority ghost." She glared at him. Jake looked at the trophy lying on the floor beside him. The lid was open. He went to pick it up. "So if I—"
"No!"
Cora put her stick between his hand and the trophy.
"Don't you dare close it! I'm not going back in there!"
"OK, don't worry," said Jake. "I won't touch it, I promise." Jake scratched his head. "And anyway, if I undo you, you'll never have to go in the trophy again. You'd be free to roam in the afterworld. So it would be great if you could help me figure out why you're stuck here." Cora seemed to be thinking this over before she said,
"So, if you undo me, I could leave the school. Finally!"
She looked at Jake with wide eyes before walking over to the trophy cabinet.
"You know, I was so good at sport, they named an award after me, soon to become my prison. I was here when they did the memorial assembly too. That was my first day as a ghost."
She looked up at the vaulted ceiling.
"It's so boring being stuck here. It's killing me."
Cora rolled her eyes dramatically.
"Or at least it would be if I wasn't already dead."
"How did you die?" asked Jake. Cora inspected her nails.
"That's none of your business."
"Sorry," said Jake. He probably wouldn't want to tell a stranger how he died either. Cora climbed back onto the stage and stood behind a lectern as though she were about to address an assembly of children.
"So cruel that one so talented should be taken in the prime of her life."
She looked down at Jake.
"That's what Mrs. Fentiman said. Silly old bird. If they'd wanted to remember me properly, they could have at least awarded me the head girl cup. I was definitely going to get it that term, but it went to Agnes Petherton instead."
She paused for a second.
"It's not boasting when it's true."
She shrugged.
"Wendy Spithurst told me when she came to visit me in hospital. Spiteful, if you ask me. The greedy cow ate all my grapes, then told me they'd given the award to Agnes. Seems a bit mean to be bumped off the head girl spot just because you're on your deathbed."
Jake looked up at Cora excitedly. "Maybe you're trapped because you weren't made head girl. And if we added your name to the cup, you'll be undone. That's it, I know it is." She yawned.
"No."
"What do you mean, no?" Jake frowned. "You could at least try it."
"Goodness, you are a dullard, Precious. Even if I did want you to undo me, that wouldn't work. And anyway, I don't want to be undone, because I know precisely why I'm a ghost."
Jake looked at her. "Why?"
"It's what I think about when I'm in that trophy, and it's what I thought about when I was in that depressing hospital. Trouble for you is that it will take some time to solve."
Jake groaned. "Great, another problem ghost." Cora ignored the interruption.
"I'm a rare combination, you see. I'm exceptionally lucky to be from a very privileged background indeed. Of course you've heard of my father, Lord Sanderford?"
"Nope," said Jake. She pulled a face.
"There are lots of super privileged girls at Bodleians, but I was more than that. I also had talent. Straight A's, captain of the hockey team." She gritted her teeth. "Future head girl."
She waved her stick dangerously close to Jake's head.
"There was so much I wanted to do, so many adventures. I was destined for the most sensational life."
She sighed and looked out of the window into the sky. She folded her arms crossly.
"Well, this is my last chance. You'll have to take me with you, and I'll be undone when I finally feel like I've lived a thrilling life, or rather death."
"You don't want to come with me," said Jake. "It's very dangerous where I'm going." Cora's eyes gleamed with excitement.
"Oh, please take me," she said. "I'd die for a bit of danger."
Jake felt his resolve weaken. He didn't know how it felt to be stuck in a trophy for years, and Cora clearly wasn't ready to go to the afterworld. Undoing didn't seem like something you could force on a ghost who wasn't receptive to the idea. He looked at the hopeful expression on Cora's face and knew he couldn't leave her stuck inside her trophy. Okay, he said, I guess you could come with us until you've done enough to be undone, but I'll have to close the lid so I can carry the trophy. You ready? Cora nodded.
Only if you promise to open it again as soon as we're outside. I haven't been outside for so long.
Done. Jake flipped the lid back on the trophy before placing it in his rucksack. He smiled to himself as he walked back round the stage and headed over to the big double doors. He'd never met anybody like Cora before, living or dead. It was just his luck that the first 2 ghosts he'd met were impossible to undo, but at least he'd found 2 friends in them, and there was still one last name on the list, one last chance to stay out of the eternal void, and then they would be free to get on with their own lives, or in Stiffkey's and Cora's cases, free to get on with their own deaths. As Jake pushed at the heavy door, a hand whipped through the crack and grabbed him roughly by the ear, lifting him onto his toes. Well, 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 said a stern voice. What do we have here? And that is the end of that chapter. Was that a good chapter?
Yes, that was. Cora is very funny.
Cora is, yeah. She's got a slightly annoying voice, hasn't she?
Well, that's just you.
I might have to tone the voice down a little bit. Yeah, okay, all right, that's enough. Yeah. Good. So what do you think of Cora? So this isn't making life easy for Jake, is it? But mind you, we're only about halfway through the book. So he couldn't undo someone that quickly, because then we'd be at the end of the story, wouldn't we?
Yeah, but
So
that looks like Cora.
Ah, yes, of course, Cora is
So
on
it
the
looks
front
like
cover.
Cora is having an adventure.
Yeah, well, so that is Cora and Jake being pursued by Mawkins by the looks of it. So Cora is going to help him on his adventures. Great.